Guys, welcome back. Back with another episode of the pod. And today's one is an interesting topic. It's something that something I definitely get asked a lot about, and it's not something I talk a lot about. So it's one of those topics that obviously there's some demand there to get a little bit more information. And we thought it would be a useful one to do our third podcast on. So today we are talking about warming up. We're talking about warming up specifically for golf and for play or for practice. I'm also going to do a little bit of talk on recovery as well, and what you can do to recover better for your round. So we're going to basically work through these topics pretty unscheduled. We're actually unscheduled today. We've got no plan. So this could go anywhere. This could be 10 minutes. This could be 2 hours. We have no idea. But hopefully at the end of this, you'll have a better understanding of how to warm up for golf. Like, is it even important to warm up for golf? And if you are going to warm up, what's going to be the best way of you kind of getting yourself prepared and then recovering and then getting prepared again, for example, if you want to play twice on a weekend. So I'm going to throw a random question at Sam.
Let's go for it.
To get started. Sam, do you warm up for golf?
Yes, I warm up. So let's clarify before we go on. We are talking physical warm-ups, correct? Or are we talking golf game as well?
Oh, that's a great shout.
So I think it all gets kind of lugged into one when we're talking about warming up. What I like to do, I warm up probably not as much as I should do. Is the answer. Since my back injury in November, definitely I take more time. I try to be really strict and give myself at least half an hour of movement before even hitting a ball. That's slightly different because I'm still recovering from an injury. Do I get my golfers to warm up? 100%. Do they notice a difference? 100%. Do enough of them do it? 100. Not enough of them do it. 100%. Not enough golfers do. Typically, it's your quick jog from the car park down to the first tee to make sure you're on your tee time in time, right? And you might get a few stretches, bend over, touch your toes, do a few little rotations, and then bang, you're off to play.
Yeah.
Joe, do you warm up?
I don't do a structured warm up.
Yeah,
I would say I don't think I do anything that's structured. One thing I do believe quite strongly, and I don't know if this is, I don't know how much science there is in this. I would like to see some science. I don't know if the science, but it's definitely what I've seen and what I experienced myself is the better my training has been over that little period. Like, say for example, if I've been training quite hard or training well for like a good few weeks and I've been doing some mobility work or looking after my body, then I can get warm pretty quick. Like, I don't really need to spend too much time going through stuff. Generally, like, I would just start with some small swings to work my way up, and quite quickly I can get warm. But I don't think everyone's in that position. So absolutely. I think depending on what your position is when you get to the course, that will obviously depend on how much warm up you need, right? I've had other days when I've been training a lot and then my body aches maybe, and then maybe I need to spend a bit more time warming it up to make myself feel better. But I think it depends day to day. It depends on what you've been doing that day. It depends if it's first thing in the morning. Is it after you've been sat at the desk all day? Is it after you've been to the gym? Like, obviously all of those situations will be different. And that's why I like having a plan that you can go to that's like maybe like plan A, plan B, plan C. Like, how much time do I have? How does my body feel? And then having an opportunity to get yourself ready. But I think that will look different for everyone.
Absolutely. I think you're in a fortunate place where you know your body. You've been training for years. 100%. You know what works for you. You understand that, right, well, today I'm actually feeling pretty fresh. I could probably go hit some ball straight away. Within a couple of shots, I'll be fairly warm and ready to go. Other people are not in that camp. They need a lot more time. They're probably at a lot more risk as well of getting injured.
100%.
And being sore after the round, and say it's a Friday, they want to play Saturday, Sunday as well. Well, then now we're in a position where we just can't do that.
And I think performance is a big one as well. Like, if you're someone who feels stiff and you feel restricted and you don't feel warm and ready to swing the golf club, you're not giving yourself the best chance of hitting a good shot, right? Like,
first tee nerves are a thing, right?
Well,
if you're standing up there going, God, I don't know how my body's going to cope with this. It's going to be even worse.
I know that's the case for most people even when warm, but
exactly.
I think give yourself the best opportunity to hit a good shot is probably a good place to be. And I spoke to a guy. I played in a tournament this weekend, and I spoke to a guy who was in his 70s. He was good player, very good player, but he was in his 70s. He goes, I don't hit any balls before I play because I don't want to tire myself out. So that's his mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine. I don't think you're going to tire yourself out, but
Yeah.
if that's what you feel like, then that is interesting information for us, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think perception is big with this stuff, but yeah, I'm going to throw it back to Sam because he likes his geeky strength conditioning stats. So Sam's going to give you all the information you need to know on the physiological reasons why we should warm up.
Why
So,
we
like,
should actually warm up.
why should we actually warm up? Like, what actually happens to our body when we warm up? Like, why is that going to be beneficial for mechanics? Why is that going to be
Okay.
beneficial for
Alright,
club head speed
okay.
or all that stuff?
Before I bore you and talk about all the actual science behind it, there's a really interesting study that the USGA did about warming up. 3 control groups. One just hit balls on the range, went out to play.
Mm-hmm.
One went through a proper physical warm up first. So S&C warm up, which is ramp. So they raise, activate, mobilise, potentiate. Went through that, included some speed stick stuffs. Then hit some balls. Then went out to play. Third group did nothing, just went out to play. Not only did so both groups who warmed up, the ones that hit balls and the ones that actually did a physical warm up, scored better. Average distance off the tee, much further. So like that's all the evidence us golfers need to warm up, right?
I got some questions.
Go.
I like asking questions to research. You probably don't have the answers.
I
to
probably
these, so
don't
I
to
feel
hand.
really
It
bad.
was a long time ago that I read these.
So we'll try and find the research maybe. Like maybe we'll try and find it. But my question with that would be, like, from me going back to my university days and
Yeah,
research
yeah,
we used
yeah.
to do, like, the big question for that is, are these golfers who would normally warm up? Because if you take a golfer that normally does a warm up
Yeah.
and then tell them you're not allowed to warm up and get them on the first tee, that's going to have a much bigger effect to someone who never warms up,
Yeah.
who you get to on the first tee, right? So
I can
this
imagine
comes down to
they were college players over in America, so I can imagine they all did
they
warm
probably
up and
normally
they were
warm up, right?
all
And
used to
they're probably,
warming up.
they're probably more than aware of the
Yes.
reasons to warm
Yes,
up, the consequences
absolutely.
of not warming up.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that plays a good part on
Yeah.
it. Like, that's an interesting. We need to get some hackers. So if there's any hackers out there that don't warm up,
Yeah.
that's
Do our own study.
yeah, get in touch. We're going to do our own research.
That's a good shout.
We can measure upload speed. We can measure score. We can
Yeah.
measure perception. That'd be a big one. Like actually
Yeah.
asking them how
Yes.
do you feel on
Yeah.
the first tee?
Yeah.
How do you feel on the third?
Yeah.
How do you feel after,
Yeah.
like, that's important in golf.
One. Just speaking about how we feel, we've started a Pilates class on a Tuesday morning for the ladies here before they go off and play. Just off perception, well, actually, 2 of them have scored their lowest ever after the Pilates, and all of them say they feel so much better.
There you go.
I think part of that is obviously a physical warm up. I think a lot coming in from a early morning tee time is actually mentally preparing yourself for the game. And I think that is a massive kind of underestimate of when we say warming up. We're not just warming up your body, we're warming up your brain, we're getting you used to, right, we are about to play golf, let's kind of shift into gear. Let's get out of work mode, get out of dad, get out of mum mode. Let's really try and focus on what we're doing.
100%.
It's just-
I know a lot of people that will be listening to this will also be aware of Cog Coach, and he is a big advocate of this. Like, he talks about how to warm up, like, mentally for golf, and is big. And you know, the problem we might have also, and you know, this is not necessarily my area of expertise, but it definitely sits into what we're talking about here, is just going onto the driving range and then trying to work on your swing.
Yeah.
Is not warming up.
Yeah.
Right, it's probably going to play worse, and you know, that's his area of interest. He's the expert on that, and he'll tell you the same. Like, that's not a warm up. That's you trying to sort your game out before heading out there in a desperate attempt to salvage some kind of swing, right?
Yeah.
So I think warming up for body and mind is important. They
Yeah.
probably look a little bit different, but they, you know, kind of fit in the same box. So you're going to bore us with some geeky stuff now?
No. Look, we all know all warming up does essentially, it helps us increase our blood flow and oxygen to the muscles, which hopefully should increase our performance and reduce risk of injury.
Yeah.
Let's
Is it simple as that, right?
leave it there without getting too complex, without all the scientific stuff that happens under the scenes. Joe, if I've got a golfer, let's say just your average guy, average girl, 15 handicap, mid handicap, they want a warm-up procedure, where would you lead them?
It's a good question. One thing I hate a lot is any type of warm up for golf that involves you need to be on the floor.
Oh, I completely
I've seen a
agree.
lot of this-
I completely agree. It's just not realistic. I've seen
Not when you live in
coaches. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like, it's not, if you live in Florida, and it's warm, go for it. And when I was in Florida, I saw people doing this. Right?
Yeah.
I saw people laying on the floor, they were stretching out.
Really?
Good on you. You will not find me doing that.
Yeah.
And I will not tell anyone to ever lay down on the first tee. And multiple reasons. one, it's cold and it's wet, and you're going to get muddy. That's no fun for anyone. And two, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have a culture in England. Like, I know it's different in America. And I've spoken to a lot of Americans who do warm up. They use bands. They're really good at it, right?
Yeah.
Here we're not. We're awful.
No, 100%.
And if anything, it gets looked at like oh, you're warming up. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Like, you're a pro? Like, what's going
Absolutely.
on, right?
Absolutely.
And that kind of culture means that no one is ever going to do
Nothing's ever going to
on the
change.
floor. Like,
Yeah.
Unless, some people would, but most people won't, right? So for that type of person, I would say, what can we do for you that does two things? One, it gets you prepared, gets your body prepared without necessarily looking like you're doing a warm-up. I think that's quite key. So anything holding a golf club, anything you can do just while chatting to your mates, I think that's a good place to go. Anything that gets blood moving around to the hands and the fingers is also important.
Yeah.
We're still in cold weather here, and it's going to be, that's important. And the last part of that is, what areas of your body are you aware of that are, typically a little bit stiff, right?
Yeah.
If you know that typically you're stiff in your mid-torso, then it's probably going to be a good idea to spend 5 minutes working on that area, right? That might do you some benefit. So understanding your body and how your body moves, understanding your previous, what's your training been like that week, where do you might want to spend some time, and how can you get some work done in kind of 5 minutes, just holding a golf club without embarrassing yourself. That's kind of my summary on
I agree with all of that. Mine completely differs client to client because of those reasons, because I have some clients that do not care what other people think of them. So they will do lunges, they'll do some weird overhead squats, they'll do some plyometric jumps, everything like that. And then I've got others that will just not do anything. So
I feel like I get sent videos of your clients. So I get people send me videos and they say, what do you think of this? And we've got like some kind of like Jimenez move.
For a lot of clients, what I recommend is just do some bits at home before you leave.
Yeah.
Do some bits at home before you leave. I know it's not ideal. The body will start to cool down a little bit, but it's better than doing absolutely nothing.
100%. Yeah, I agree. And I think, if we were in a habit of, I say this to people all the time, like, if you're in a habit of doing exercise and doing movement and making your body feel good regularly anyway, then you're taking less importance on that warm-up, let's say. I'm going to be careful with my words there, but you can probably get away with it more if you're in a general state of strength, fitness, well-being. The classic Rory, turning up 30 seconds before his tee time to ride a cup and winning. Like, there's no way he can do that if he's been sat at his desk 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Right? It's not,
for years and years and years.
The fact that he trains every day and he plays every day probably means he's got a chance to get away with it. Is he going to just turn up to every tournament and do that? No.
Absolutely not.
But can he do it once? Yeah, obviously he can, and he can get away with it, right? So I think that is a good way of describing it there. I don't know, like, if someone said to you, like, there's no way you're getting me warm-up, Sam. Like, I haven't got time. I turn up, I tee off. How do you help that person? Because they are out there. They are out there. I suppose you've got to get through to them first.
You've got to get through to them. You've got to try to say to them, well, typically for those types of clients that are stubborn, I will say, well, how have you been playing at the moment? 9 times out of 10, they're not playing as good as they want. I said, right, well, why don't we try this? See how we get on. Because it's probably going to improve how you're playing. I'll also go back to injury history and say, do you want this to creep back in? Do you want to miss any more golf? 80% of golf injuries are typically overuse injuries. So if we're not priming our body for those, like you just said, the weather's pretty dire here in England. We get a pretty short golf season as it is. Do you want to be injured and miss any of that season? Absolutely not. So let's take all the precautions we can. 1, in the off season, actually training, and 2, before you play, warm up as much as possible, and then it'll just be your easy warm ups. Like you were saying, it's nothing that's going to draw attention, because unfortunately, like you said, the culture over here is not how it is in other countries. I think, touch wood, it's changing. I think Full Swing's helped kind of show that the players are in the gym before and after rounds. So actually showing that there is that importance is getting through. I think more and more people, I get more and more clients sending me pictures of people warming up, and I think that we'll finally I know some of the stuff is wacky. I tell you what, I'd rather people do wacky stuff than nothing at all, because it is better than nothing, right?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I think Yeah, I mean, I always say to people, if you can't do anything, then at least take like 15 to 20 swings.
Yeah.
Start like on the first tee. Start with a small swing. Move yourself away from the first tee, like, and just a couple of swings, like, because I see people try and do a couple of swings, but then they never really do that quite enough. Like, I like the idea of taking a couple of swings before you go, but do it a little bit more. Like, get a little bit of a sweat on if you can. Get the heart rate up a little bit if you can. Then give yourself a little bit of time and then go. Like, I don't think, even if you're just going to swing the golf club, that's okay. Like, you'll do something. As you said, like, something is better than nothing.
Essentially, with swinging a golf club, you could cover all areas of the warm up within that, doing it slowly, doing enough so your heart rate's up. That's actually elevating your heart rate. That's increasing your blood flow. If you're really doing it properly and imagining what muscles you're activating your muscles, if you do it slow enough and you're really getting your full kind of rotation, you're mobilizing as well. And at the end, if you're really going for it, that's potentiating. So we're kind of there just with swinging the club. Yes, it's not ideal, but is it quick and easy? Is it easy access? Yeah. What would you advise? Let me spin this round. What would you advise golfers not to do as a warm-up?
Great question. Roll around on the muddy floor. No, I think that's a good question. I would probably advise them not, as we said, not to start working on their swing.
Yep.
So, it's too late. It's like cramming for an exam, right? It's too late. You're not going to get any better. You can get a feel, obviously. You can start to get a feel. You can start to feel the club on ball, and you can start to feel like that contact, and that's useful. But you're not going to fix your swing. So that I would say don't do. In terms of physical wise, like, I don't know really. It's like, kind of saying like what vegetables you recommend don't eat. Like, it's kind of like if you're doing something, then it's kind of that's all right. Obviously, it can be better or it can be perfect, but something's better than nothing.
100% something's better than nothing. What I was
you must be thinking of something.
Where I wanted to lead it to is static stretching.
Okay.
So static stretching is, like you said, it's still going to be better than nothing.
Yeah.
But it's one of the worst things you can do for your golf swing. Obviously, the golf swing, the body moves almost like an elastic band, and we need that elasticity. How am I saying?
Put your teeth back in.
We need that elasticness to spring back and generate. I'm changing the word because I can't say it. We need that to generate the power.
Yeah.
If you imagine an elastic band and you just stretch it, those old elastic bands, they will never return, right? Mm-hmm. That essentially is what a static stretcher is doing, right? So if you imagine we've just got our arm across the body, just those triceps, shoulder stretches that you'll see, or particularly the other one everyone knows is just grabbing your leg, putting your knees together to get a nice quad stretch, just holding that 30 seconds. All that essentially is doing is increasing the length of your muscles and not allowing it to come back. Therefore, we could generate less power. They did another interesting study on this and actually showed that static stretches increase dispersion off a tee, which obviously we do not want. So typically, if you are trying to warm up, keep it dynamic, keep it flowing, because then you're also getting your heart rate up as well, but you're also like mobilizing your muscles. You're not increasing the length. It's the last that you would never do a full yoga class, hold poses forever, and then try to play golf, because you're not going to have that strength there.
I've got so many questions on that.
Go on. Probably won't be able to answer half.
Sorry. Question number 1. So would you say that doing static stretching is worse than doing nothing?
I have no idea on the data on that. It would be really interesting to find out.
Yeah.
From the paper that I saw, it said it could be worse.
So on that paper again, like, this is not a big.
But then in terms of worse of what are we talking about? More likely to get injured or less power? This was more on power and dispersion.
Yeah. So I think we've got a couple of elements we need to always measure on, right? But we've got injury prevention, which is a big one, which actually, like, quite often for injury prevention, previous injury is the biggest precursor to that. So, if you're someone who's suffered previously with injuries, then it's probably going to be more important for you.
Yes.
We've got performance. We've got perception.
Yep.
We've got speed and power. There's a lot of concepts that go into golf.
Better or worse. Yes.
Yeah. Also with that, like, I'd like to know how they measured that dispersion, because if the further you hit it, the bigger your dispersion. Yeah. It's a bigger cone, right? Yeah. So I would say that if I didn't warm up, my dispersion would probably be tighter, because I'd probably be hitting it like 30 yards less.
Yeah.
So, and also when you haven't warmed up, you're going to be more conservative.
Yeah.
So you get people that just tap it down the fairway, right?
Yeah.
They start conservatively. They play within themselves for the first like 3 or 4 holes, and then they start to then, build up. And I think that's why sometimes people say, "Oh, I've tried warming up before and it's not helped." But it's because when you don't warm up and you're just cold and you're stiff, you probably just pat one down into the middle of the fairway. You're not actually at full speed hitting a proper shot, right? So I think dispersion is always a funny one with that because, dispersion isn't always a good or bad. Like it's an interesting one.
Oh yeah.
But this is where I thought the podcast would also be useful because there's so much discrepancy over people's opinions and what people feel themselves. Yeah. I've definitely played with people that cannot play unless they warm up. Yeah. I've also played with people who never warm up, and they're both scratch players. Yeah. Like it can be that different in opinion. Yeah. And the research is interesting also because there's obviously so much clearer research in other sports. Yeah. It's obvious that performance in so many other sports is like you have to warm up. Like there's no like.
It's not even. You would never go and play football without warming up as a kid.
Well, you would, but you would accept the fact that you're probably not going to play very well at the start, and you're going to take a while to get warmed up, and you're not going to be at full speed, and you're not going to be at full power, and whatever, right? Yeah. Same in the gym, you might not warm up, but you're not just going to jump straight onto your strongest lift. You gradually ease yourself into that. And I think the problem with golf, and the fact that it's obviously skill based as well, has a big part of that because people don't just see the physical benefit as instant performance. Reward, if that makes sense. Yeah. That was good.
You really enjoyed that. That was a really satisfaction phase.
So we've obviously covered a lot more. I'm going to put in the bottom of this podcast in the notes. Like I've got a little 5-minute warm up that people can follow, and it's just using the golf club. So I'll put that in there. That's just on YouTube. Which hopefully will give people a bit of an idea of what we're talking about when we say like if you don't have a lot of time and you do only have a golf club, that's a pretty good one to do. There will be loads of other exercises that you can do that are deeper warm-ups, activation work, all that stuff, and maybe we'll talk about that further down the line. Maybe we'll offer a few more exercises for that, or if you are confused about how you should warm up, just get in touch and we'll be able to help you out. Away from warming up then, let's say we warmed up and we played great, and let's say we now need to play tomorrow, right? And we're not someone who plays a lot of golf necessarily. We quite often struggle with stiffness after playing. We are the classic, play and then sit down, have a couple of beers, and then when we get up from the chair in the clubhouse and walk to the car, we'll walk up with shit ourselves. So what can we do after a round of golf? In terms of movement, in terms of hydration, in terms of nutrition, in terms of habits, what can we do to help kind of recover? Because as far as I'm aware, there's no research on this. I've not seen anything in golf specific.
I haven't either.
But again, we're very good in other sports. Yeah. Right? We're very good at understanding what we need to do to recover from a run, or recover from going to the gym, or recover from a game of football. Like we're quite aware. So what would you recommend to someone who needed to play, let's say, tournament golf maybe twice in a weekend?
Twice on the weekend. So we've just finished the 18. I would hope that they've been hydrating throughout the round. If not, let's really try and get some hydration in, whether that's electrolyte drink or if it's just water, making sure we're staying really hydrated. It's like I said, when we said we were going to do a podcast on kind of warming up, I was like, perfect. And then you said recovering. I was like, God, I've never really thought about recovering from a round. But then you said that's because you're never really stiff or sore after a round. And I could go out and play straight afterwards. Off the top of my mind, all I can recommend right now, and you're probably going to go into a lot more detail, is lots of water and protein. But that's all I can think about right now. Go on.
Yeah, I don't think it's far wrong. Like I always say to people, again, the fitter, stronger,
well, this
more
is the
mobile,
thing, it completely depends on the person, doesn't it?
The less this becomes important, right? You're used to going to the gym and battering your body and then recovering the next day. Yeah. So going and playing 18 holes of golf is no issue for you. Yeah. If you're not used to that, then you're going to ache, right? You're going to wake up, you're going to feel stiff. You're going to feel stiff that evening. Typically, I say hydration, nutrition, and movement. If you can do those three things, you're going to feel better. Yeah. Hydration is so important. It's key. And I know the typical is going to be going to the clubhouse, have a couple of beers, whatever, and then go home and probably have a takeaway if you're going to play on Saturday night. Like that is standard procedure for most people. Absolutely. which is not going to be the best recovery, right? We know that, we're aware of that. So what can we do to make that a little bit better?
Yeah.
I agree with you. Get more
Water.
hydration during the round is going to be key. After the round, if you can, before bed, whatever, is going to be good. Fueling correctly afterwards is going to be important to that. And then obviously some kind of movement if you can, like gentle movements. Just keep your body moving is going to help.
It kind of falls back onto what we were saying about warming up, right? You're not going to see people at the clubhouse after they finish the round doing some roll downs, roll ups, some stretching and that, because they're just going to people to look at them and go, "What are you doing?" It's just not going to happen. Do you know what I mean?
True.
We need to work on to change that. So whether it's you take yourself to the changing rooms and you do a little bit, say specifically, right? So for me, I know that I've come back from a back injury at the moment. The last few times I played golf, my back has been sore the next day. So all I will do is after I've played is go and take myself somewhere quiet and just do some back stretches, just do some back mobility, get the blood flowing in that specific area. We all know if you've got an area, if it's likely that your hamstrings are going to be sore, or you know that sometimes after a round your shoulder freezes up, just do some work, some little bit of mobilisation there. Typically they look pretty similar to the mobilisation in a warm-up. It doesn't have to be different. Cool down doesn't have to be different. You know what I mean? Something's going to be better than nothing. It's just trying to ingrain that into people, because especially if you're trying to play the next day and it's a tournament, you want to play your best golf.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think I've ever done a cool down.
No.
I don't think I ever have, but I probably will in the evenings maybe spend a little bit of time doing a little bit of self massage or doing some movements or just making myself feel a bit better, like in the evenings maybe. But I think if you are, again, similar to warm, if you're in a better condition, you can handle it better and you recover better. Also, the more golf you play, the faster you recover.
Absolutely. So,
like, it's also like an element of exposure to the task, right? Like, the less exposure you are to that task, the harder it's going to be to recover and the more strain it's going to put on your body. So, obviously, just playing more golf is going to be good for that. But I think it's okay to feel a bit stiff and to actually go through that recovery process. I don't like, sometimes I'm not always a fan of saying that that's always a bad thing. Yeah. Like, you've just done an activity, you've just walked however far, 7-8 miles. Yeah. You've been out maybe carrying a bag for 4 hours. It's normal to ache a little bit. Like, that's,
you're going to be a bit fatigued.
Yeah, like, you're going to be a bit tired, and that's normal, right? Especially if you don't do any other training. So maybe just accepting that and then having a plan of the next day if you are going to play.
Is it actually more important to warm up for the next day?
There we go. So now we're thinking that maybe the warm-ups are more important at that stage, because, you know, what we said at the start of what condition are you turned up to the course in? Are you feeling stiff? Are you aching? What's your perception? When you first pick up the club and you might try and hit it and you're like, oh my God, I feel stiff, then you might have a little bit more of an incentive or a little bit more of a reason to then work through for 5-10 minutes to get your body back warm again, right? So that's how I can kind of see it for most people that will be listening to this. For most amateur golfers, that's probably going to be the case. You're probably not going to do too much that evening, but the next day, if you are going to play, give yourself 10 minutes to get your body back to a working condition. Yeah. And I do think that's the biggest one for the warm-up, like the following day after playing the previous day or aching is going to be key. Yeah. If you are a pro and you are taking this stuff seriously, you've got all the time in the world, or you're just a really keen golfer and you care about this stuff, then go and do some stretching afterwards, cool yourself down, down regulate, get some good hydration, get some good nutrition, get some movement done in the evenings, and then wake up the following day and reactivate and fool yourself again. Like, great, but again, we don't always live in a perfect world.
Absolutely.
So what can we do?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, Sam, if you had someone come and say to me, right, look, I'm doing all this training, whatever. How do I just sort myself out now for a round of golf? Like, if we were to summarise all of that, what would be some good habits for people to take away off the back of today?
Off the back of today, I would try to encourage them to spend at least 5 minutes warming up the body. Like you said, just taking the golf club, going through some motions, try and get that heart rate up a little bit, try and do some dynamic movements, whether that's some lunges, some squats, at a push. And I know it's hard finding somewhere that maybe a bench you can do some press ups on. Just really take you through just check yourself in, just a full body check in, see where you're at that day and go, right, maybe this needs a bit more time, this needs a bit more attention. Maybe I feel absolutely fantastic, let's just go out, let's just hit some balls, just build up my intensity there. I would urge people not just to go over to the range, get the driver out and just start going hell for leather, because that's how we get injured, unless you're really, really used to doing that. But even the professionals won't be doing that. just build yourself up slowly for that. Make sure you're hydrating through the round, not just with beers in the clubhouse at the end. And I'm not saying that let's change that because it's never going to change us. It's why we do it. We play around and golf with our mates. We're going to have some drinks afterwards. Maybe along with the pints that you're having, just have a glass of water alongside. Just something that can help you recover. Yeah.
You made me laugh there. You said just don't just turn up and just start smacking driver.
Yeah.
This weekend I drove down to the Isle of Wight.
That's what you did.
So I went down to meet with Ryan Harmer. Give a shout out to Ryan Harmer and Danny Ferry. They were down there. We've done a tournament down in the Isle of Wight. So I drove down 2 hours down there, hour on the ferry, and then an hour's driving the other side. Turned up to the golf club over there, and it's at Freshwater Bay Golf Club for anyone that knows it. There's like a driving range like right on the sea. The driving range is like uphill, and then at the end of the driving range is then the green for the first tee, for the first hole. So it's like the first green. It's like uphill, and then you play like a par 3 up the hill, and then so like past the driving range is the par 3, and the wind was coming down. It was like downwind off the sea, and Ryan was hitting this. He goes, we're basically saying like, is that green reachable? So it's like no ball up, no swing. Well, I can tee this thing.
Macho Joe gets out of the car, brings out the driver.
I teed up like 6 inches high in the air, pulled the driver out, ripped it as hard as I could to try and get out there.
Long drive Joe.
Exactly, it really was not. Actually hit it all right, but it really wasn't the pinnacle of like looking after your body. But there you go. There's no way I'm going to do that if I wasn't in some kind of condition, like sitting down in a car for 5 hours and then just coming out and doing that. Maybe that's a good test. Don't do it, but it could be a good test of like, is your body half prepared? So yeah, there we go. All right, nice. Sam, what are we going to do in future podcasts? Any ideas of what we're going to move on to? So I think we've tied up warming up and recovery. Where do we go from here? Is there anything you want to cover over the next few weeks? We can start to plan that in. And obviously, if anyone's got any recommendations, any
suggestions, send them in. I think we touched on, we want to talk about strength training. That's probably going to be a slightly longer podcast. Strength training, we're going to do some speed stuff, won't we, as well. What I want to dive into to you more is mindset, because I know that's an area that you specialise in. I think that would be really interesting. Kind of not so much mindset on the golf course, but mindset on training.
Yeah,
we've talked about how to create behavioural change and things like that, and that's really important for our clients and the golfers that we see.
Definitely. Like habits, behavioural change. Routines. How to find time to do stuff. It's a big thing that I'm interested in. If you are low on time, how do you find time to still get work done? How do you make that as efficient as possible? Similar to what we've spoken about with warm-ups, for example. So yeah, lots to dive in on, which can be exciting. And yeah, if anyone's obviously got any recommendations, send them over to myself or Sam, and we'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like always, guys, if you've got any kind of questions on today's podcast, any stuff that we brought up about warming up, or if you've got any other questions about warming up, just send them in. We'll try and get them answered in the next couple of podcasts.
All good. Guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.